Almost anyone who's ever signed up for or taken a CFA exam has heard from their friends or family that they're going to do just fine, and they know that they're smart and they're going to do great, but we know that that is not the reality. The point of this video is not to be discouraging, but rather to provide some perspective that you're probably very well aware of. It's just not communicated all that often in your life because of the nature of the encouraging and uplifting messages that you may be getting on a regular basis. The CFA Institute has never officially said exactly what the pass rate is for everyone to get through the entire program. The only actual number I've seen was on their website for maybe 4 or 5 years ago, when it once listed that less than 20% of all candidates who sign up for the level 1 exam become CFA charter holders. Because this charter involves some math, and therefore certain candidates or charter holders that have come through the program have been kind of stats nerds, they've done some of their own analysis on the pass rates through each level and the amount of people they think that might be retaking the exams. The best type of work like this that I've seen was probably posted to Analyst Forum, and their conclusion was that about 12% of folks who originally sign up for the level 1 exam will become CFA charter holders. That means pass all 3 levels and also satisfy the 4-year work requirement to become a charter holder. That means that there's an 88% failure rate. So that failure rate could be going down, the pass rate could be going up with the new computer-based testing system. We don't know that for sure yet. That remains to be seen through 2021 and further on. I think it's fair to say that about 90% of candidates fail and 10% pass. And that's the reality that you're facing. So you know the math behind the premise, but for the purposes of this video, we need to focus on why only 10% of folks get through the CFA exams. That is to say, why you will probably not pass all 3 exams. The reason is not purely IQ. People of relatively lower IQ sometimes do pass all 3 exams and become charter holders. The reason is certainly not anything like mental or physical exhaustion. I mean, I know the 8-hour exam is a long one, but most everyone has done something for 8 hours in a row at least once in their life, most notably a work day. The reason is not some type of background or privilege, because anyone can sign up for the CFA exam so long as you have like the $600 or $700 for the sign up fee, and you don't need to come from any social or educational background to take these exams. They're free and open to the public. The reason that you probably won't pass the CFA exams, if you haven't already, is because you're not willing to put in the time that it takes to learn enough material and remember enough material to answer enough questions right on the exam. This is not some new claim. For as long as the CFA program has been in existence, people have been making the case that the most important factor to being able to pass the exams is the amount of time that you put in, the amount of time you're willing to sacrifice to study for them. But it's important to tie those two big themes together because they certainly are tied together in reality. Most people will not pass the CFA exams, and most people don't pass the CFA exams because they don't put in enough time. From that statement, then, we can also conclude that if you are willing to put in the amount of time necessary to get through all the material and learn enough of it to pass the exams, then you can be a CFA charter holder. It's really all up to you. That may sound like another obvious fact because this is a self-study program and your outcome is only based on the amount of effort that you put in and then the amount of questions you answer right on the exam. But again, it is worth tying these points together. You have every ability in the world to be able to pass all of the CFA exams if you put in the amount of time required. But most people won't, and I don't think it's because they don't have the time. The big differentiating factor between those who put in enough time to be able to pass the exams and become a charter holder and those who don't is not the amount of availability that they have through their personal lives. It's not like everyone who holds the charter now just had a less time-consuming personal life while they were a candidate than everyone else did. If that was the reality, then this would just be a contest to see who has the least amount of friends, I imagine. But no, the difference between those two individuals is determination and effort. How determined you are to put in the amount of effort that you need, and you know you need to do. Everyone says it, 300 hours, right? If you watched any of my other videos, you know that I argue for people to do like 400 or more hours. And if you really want to guarantee yourself a CFA charter, maybe do like 500 or 600 hours for each level. Just budget those hours out. Maybe you have to start 8 months in advance of an exam and you have to study 2.8 hours every single day without missing any days, then do that. You have the power at your disposal to sacrifice anything else that you have going on in your schedule, sacrifice sleep if you're working long hours, whatever else it might be. If you're serious about becoming a CFA charter holder, you have every ability in the world to do it. It's just a matter of how determined you are and how willing you are to put in the amount of effort needed to sacrifice all that time so that you can answer enough questions right on exam day. Don't get me wrong, certainly some individuals have less available time than others. I, for one, always say that I was really lucky while I was a candidate because I was married, but I didn't have any kids, so I basically didn't have to spend any time like dating and looking for a partner out there. I was already set in that front, and I had someone supporting me at home. And I also wasn't working a very time-consuming job. The most I would work is about 50 hours a week, typically closer to 40 or 45 hours. So it really wasn't too tough for me to get in 3 hours every weeknight or 8 hours on some weekends. Whatever schedule works best for you, I could have swung it with the schedule that I had. But don't use me as an excuse to say, oh, well, that guy had way more free time than I had, because certainly there's always family obligations, friends want to do things, trips, holidays, people want you at their houses, people want you to celebrate certain events, big sporting events, March Madness. If you're a college basketball fan, you basically have to give up maybe the biggest love of your life if you want to be studying for a CFA exam. So things like that come up for everyone. You have to be willing to put in the amount of time, however that gets budgeted out in your schedule, to answer enough questions right. The most motivating stories here come from individuals that have posted their stories on like Analyst Forum or RCFA or something like that, where they talk about having 3 kids and their kids are in sports and they have to do vacations and their wife and this and that. So they end up doing like 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. every morning, and then they get to bed at 10 p.m. They're only sleeping 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., so they're not getting a ton of sleep, like 6 hours a night. But it's a sacrifice they're willing to make to study from 4 to 6 every morning, or whatever that would be for you, to make this dream of passing the exams and becoming a charter holder a reality. This isn't like becoming a pro athlete where you need to have some huge natural born talent. This isn't like becoming a movie star where you need a big break. Everyone has the same opportunity to the information needed to study enough and pass these exams. So it is all on you and the amount of time that you're willing to put in. If you're not willing to put in at least 300 hours, I would argue at least 400 hours. If you're not willing to put that amount of time in, don't sign up. If all candidates approach these exams in a way that I would consider appropriate, the pass rate would be much higher and the failure rate would be much lower, but far fewer people would be taking these exams. Because if you're not going to be able to put in the 400 hours over the course of the next 6 to 9 months before the next exam that you want to sign up for, then don't sign up, because you're going to have a really, really small chance of being able to pass it. And if you are willing to put in the 400 or more hours for that upcoming exam, then sign up for the exam and do the work. Don't complain about it. Don't make excuses. Just do the amount of time necessary to be able to pass the exam. You're going to have a much better chance of being able to pass it once you've done that amount of work. And the pass rates in that scenario would be way higher, because like 60, 75, maybe 80% of people who sign up for it would eventually pass it. Of course, that's not our reality though, and that's why this video was made for you. You need to be realistic about your situation and decide, am I going to put in the 400 or more hours that I need to actually pass this exam? Or am I someone who doesn't have the determination or is not willing to put in the amount of effort needed to pass one of these exams? And if the answer to that is no, then let that be the answer. And you just saved yourself a ton of time. You'll be doing yourself a huge favor if you can answer that question honestly to yourself. And if the answer is no, which numbers tell us about 90% of people should probably look at that question and go, no, I guess I'm not willing to, and I'm not determined enough to study enough for this exam, then don't take it. You'll save yourself $1,000 and a ton of time and worry and heartbreak in the end that you would have otherwise not had to deal with. I guess the point of this video then is to encourage you to be honest about your own situation to yourself when considering if you're going to sign up for one of these exams. There are also the stories of folks signing up a month before and studying like 16 hours a day for 3 weeks and then passing it. I'm just kind of ignoring those scenarios. I'm not saying that they don't happen. A lot of those stories are likely true. Some maybe not so much, but most are, in my opinion. It's just that those are really few and far between. There are thousands and thousands of people signing up for CFA exams every month, week, and maybe even every day now. And the vast majority of those will follow a much more traditional study schedule. Those folks are who this message is geared towards. And if you can be honest with yourself in answering that question, you're either going to know today that you can pass these exams, assuming your IQ is somewhere above like 100, 110. People debate where that cutoff might be. But as long as you kind of meet that minimum IQ threshold and you commit to yourself today to studying enough to be able to pass the exams, you can know today that you're going to be a CFA charter holder in the future as long as you stick to that plan that you put in place for yourself. Hope this video helps some of you out there. If so, let me know in the comments down below. If you've gotten to this point, then it means you watched the whole thing. I really appreciate that. It helps the YouTube algorithm a lot to get the watch time up. So if you could also like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would really appreciate it. And as always, thanks for watching.